Going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to Wholesale Hotline Pre-Show. My name is Bryce, and in this 30 minutes, what we talk about is driving for dollars. Driving for dollars is how 80% of all people get their first deal. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about. I'm going to tell you guys exactly what to do from start to finish, and then we're going to hop on the power dialer. We're actually going to cold call some of the houses that we decided to add. So let's jump into this. If you guys have questions, please drop those in the comment section. That way I can provide value to you guys. And that way Pace, Brent, and Jamil know that we're providing value in this 30-minute pre-show. Okay, so I'm actually going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you kind of the step-by-step process, what we do before we actually go drive for dollars or before we actually go out there and knock doors. So we've been pivoting towards knocking doors. I just think getting in front of someone is very, very efficient. So we still do both. So we'll actually drive for dollars. And if it hits the criteria, meaning it's a 5 or more on our distress level, we're going to actually get out and knock it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with the BatchDriven app, and I'm going to show you guys kind of what to do and what to look for before you actually go out there and drive for dollars. And then I also decided to take some pictures of some of the houses that we added today. And there was one house where I was completely fooled. I thought it was vacant, but talking with the neighbors, it comes to find out someone is actually living in there. And I'm excited to show you that house. I mean, it's super crazy, but let me share my screen. And I'm going to show you guys kind of what to look for before you actually go out there and drive for dollars. So this is going to be the aerial view on the BatchDriven app. Okay, now what we're trying to identify is a place to actually start driving for dollars in. So I know, just because I'm on Pace Morby's acquisition team, that Pace and Cody and Matt are buying in this neighborhood. I know what zip codes that they're buying in. I know what counties they're buying in. So after I've kind of understood what areas that they're buying in, that's going to be the first place for me to actually go drive for dollars. Okay, so what I have is the desktop version, and I'm going to show you guys what to actually look for before you waste your time driving out to this area and what to actually look for. So I'm going to share my screen, which we're already doing. And these are kind of the things that you want to look for before you actually go out there and drive for dollars. Okay, so we're going to try to find a non-HOA neighborhood. Okay, so it's going to be very easy for us to hit 50 houses if we want to door knock 50, or if we just want to add these properties to our driving for dollars list. Okay, so we're going to look for a non-HOA neighborhood. Let me actually change a setting here. I found that this app runs a little bit smoother, a little bit faster if you turn off the display house numbers. Okay, but this is going to be updated on a weekly basis. So this allows us to find, houses that might have blue tarps on them. This is going to allow us to find empty pools like this one. Okay, empty pools can be a sign of vacancy. Okay, so we're going to look for empty pools. We're going to look for damaged roofs. Maybe we find a house with a blue tarp on it. We're also going to look for, trash or junk, broken down cars in the backyard. Okay, so this is what I do every single night before we actually go out there and drive for dollars. Let me zoom out just a little bit. Okay, you guys can see that this is going to be a green pool right here, 255. That's going to be a green pool. That could be another sign of vacancy. There's going to be an empty pool up there. I know personally that this is a non-HOA neighborhood just because we've already driven for dollars. So we're going to look for other signs that this is a non-HOA neighborhood. Okay, we're going to try to find maybe some tarps on the roof. Looks like this one, 245, might have a tarp on it. Let me zoom in just a little further. Okay, it looks like 245 does have a tarp on the roof, but you guys can see there's going to be tons of trash, tons of broken down cars in some of these backyards. I know that if I go drive for dollars in this area, that I can hit maybe 25 to 30 properties, but because I do this full time, I want to try to hit 50 properties every single time I go out there and drive for dollars. Okay, so now that I've kind of determined that this is a non-HOA neighborhood, there's piles of junk, piles of trash in this area, I'm going to actually double check and make sure. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop this little peg man. Okay, you can see this in the top right-hand corner. We're going to just drop it down there on the road. After it loads some of these. Okay, we're just going to drop it down there, and this is going to be compatible with Google Maps. Okay, so this is how you guys would drive for dollars virtually. Maybe you work a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you don't have time to actually go out there and physically drive for dollars. You guys can do this all from your desktop. Okay, so we're just going to drive down the road. We're going to look for, some signs of distress. See, this is a perfect example of a house you would not want to add, right? There's nothing wrong with this house. They have fresh green grass, brand new roof, brand new AC, newer windows. That's a house that we want to stay away from. Okay, so this one here, there's really nothing wrong with this one. Has a newer roof, has some poor landscape, but other than that, that's not a factor of distress. Okay, we're going to drive through here. See if we can find this one. Looks like this one does have some poor landscape. Looks like there's maybe looks like a bathtub or something out there, but the roof, that's going to be a big factor for when you're driving for dollars is, do they have a damaged roof? Because that's going to be very expensive for them to fix. Okay, so I know that this is pretty much a good area for us to drive for dollars in. You can see, they have trampolines in the front yards. And I know that this is going to be, if I go drive for dollars in this area, maybe this house right here, there's a bunch of trash, bunch of junk in the front yard, that this is going to be an area where I can add 50 houses pretty conveniently. Okay, so this one I personally would not add if I was to drive for dollars virtually, and here's why. So on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that the image date was taken December 2020. Okay, you can see the sale date was 2021. So usually, if a house looks like this and it has a sale date after the image date, chances are that it's already been sold. It's already been bought by, a wholesaler or maybe someone that's wanting to move in and live in it. Okay, so that's how you kind of decide whether or not a house is good to add if you're looking to drive for dollars virtually. Okay, so this one's a good example too. So this was taken in December 2020, and you can see the sale date was 1999. So if this one had the factors of distress, the 4 pillars, where it has 2 or more of the 4 pillars, I would add this one to my driving for dollars list. But just kind of doing this, I just want to double check before I drive all the way out here that, there's going to be some good houses in this area. Now I'm going to go back, see if we have any questions. Brian, no, this is actually batch driven. So we use everything under the batch umbrella. So this is how, this is kind of the step-by-step process of how you guys could actually go out there and drive for dollars. But let me actually share my screen of some of the houses that we added from today, some of the houses that we actually knocked. Okay, so when we talk about the 4 pillars, I'll explain that once I pull up this. This is kind of what you want to look for. Okay, so I'll actually come back to this house, but this is the one that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Okay, so these are some of the houses that we added from today while driving for dollars, as well as door knocking. But this one, if you zoom in a little bit closer, you can see that the windows are boarded up. There's going to be some exterior distress. There's going to be some no trespassing signs. So when we talk about the 4 pillars, that's going to include poor landscape. That's going to be exterior distress, meaning that the paint is starting to chip. Maybe the windows are boarded up or broken. The third thing that we look for is the damaged roof. So sometimes the shingles are going to be falling off, that sort of thing. And then the fourth and final thing, and it's probably the most obvious, is going to be trash or junk or even broken down cars. So as long as it hits 2 or more of those 4 pillars, we're going to add it to our driving for dollars list. Now, I did want to mention, and this isn't the case all the time, but 9 out of 10 times, usually if there's a no trespassing sign, it's a sign of vacancy. I've noticed that with so many houses when I'm out there driving for dollars, but that's where I was actually fooled from the other house. Okay, so as long as it hits 2 or more of the 4 pillars, we're going to add it to our driving for dollars list. Okay, this one, you can see that this one had a blue tarp, and that's what a lot of people look for before they actually go out there and physically drive for dollars. They're going to look for a blue tarp on the roof. Maybe they have, bricks on the roof, but you can see, this one's going to have some poor landscape. It's going to have a damaged roof. The window is going to need to be repaired. This is a factor of distress, so that's why we added this one to our list. Okay, this one was actually pretty scary to knock. So I actually got out and knocked this one just because there was so much clutter, so much trash. And As soon as I knocked on the door, he opened it. So I don't know if you guys have knocked doors before, but it scares the living crap out of me every time that happens. But you guys can see this one's got some exterior distress, meaning that the paint is starting to wear away, trash or junk. And then I think this guy was honestly living off the grid. You can see that giant antenna system up there. So I got out, knocked this one. He wasn't too friendly, but we just moved on to the next house. And then this was the one that fooled me. I for sure thought this one was vacant. It has all the telltale signs. A lot of houses that are vacant, they're going to have tons of grass just like this, or tons of weeds that are super high. And they did have a no trespassing sign in the back of the truck. The truck was broken down. The AC unit looks like it's about to break down. The windows are super distressed as well. The roof, has terrible roof damage. And there's also, you guys can see there's a bunch of grass covering the front door. But what I thought was strange is there was actually like a little carveway, a little pathway leading to the front door. So I was kind of on the fence. I didn't know if this was vacant or not. So we skip traced this property information, and I tried to call him right from the spot, but it was a bad phone number. So I knocked on the window, rang the doorbell, no one answered. And then I decided to go actually talk to the neighbors, and the neighbors were the ones that told me, he's been to prison several times. The police are always here. And there's actually someone living inside this house. So even though I saw all the telltale signs, someone was still living in this house. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow up with this property. Today we knocked out about 3 p.m. So I kind of know that he's probably at work during that time. So I'm going to try earlier in the morning, and then I'm going to also try maybe later in the evening, see if I can actually catch him, see if I can figure out what kind of vehicle he's driving, because this is a perfect house. This is a perfect house that you guys want to be out there adding to your list or door knocking, trying to get that person on the phone. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. That's a jacuzzi. Yeah, I thought it was a jacuzzi or a bathtub. I wasn't sure. Yeah, so this is the BatchDriven app. This is a picture that I took personally today. This is a house that I decided to knock. So I actually do a live Monday or Tuesday and Thursday at 4:30 p.m. And I show you guys kind of what to look for. We skip trace some of these properties, and we actually cold call them live. Okay, so this is the BatchDriven app. I found this one today, added to the list. I skip traced them. The information came back negative. So this is going to be one that I'm going to have to constantly go back. I left a note on his truck, left a note on his door. So we'll see if we can get this person in on the phone or try to set an appointment, something like that. Yeah, Elias. So does Batch track routes like Deal Machine? Thinks in advance. Yes, it does track all of your routes, and you can actually, if you're driving for dollars virtually, it's not going to track it in real time until after you're done. So that's a cool feature too, is you can do it virtually as well. So Kara, so let me rephrase this, guys. So what are the pillars again? So it's called the 4 pillars. Okay, so it looks like we got one right here. So that's not to be confused with qualifying a prospect. So when we talk about the 4 pillars, we're looking at the 4 pillars of distress. Okay, so those are going to be poor landscape. So you can see that the grass is really overgrown here, terrible weeds. The second thing that we look for is exterior distress. So maybe the house has broken windows, boarded up windows. You can see that the paint starting to chip away. That's going to be the second thing. The third thing that we look for is a damaged roof. Maybe some of the shingles are falling off. Maybe there's a blue tarp on the roof. That's going to be the third thing. And the last and final thing is going to be broken down cars or trash or junk in the backyard. So talking to the neighbor, I mean, they do have a broken down car, and the neighbors did say that this person is a hoarder. Okay. And those are the 4 pillars. So landscape, exterior distress, damaged roof, and then trash or junk or broken down cars. Yeah, looks like money. Yeah, so this is Josh, guys. So he actually does all the video for myself and BatchDriven. And we did knock this. We did take a video. We talked to the neighbors. We got that on video as well. So that's going to be dropping tomorrow. Looks like a perfect house to burn down. Yeah, it says the neighbor said that several investors have been looking at this property, but hopefully if we can get that person on the phone or set an appointment, that is going to be a good property for us to possibly buy. So Dan says, are you knocking every time you are driving for dollars? Yeah, if we're driving for dollars like we were today and we find a property just like this, I'm always going to get out and knock it, just because this house is too good for us to pass up, right? So drive for dollars. A lot of people will actually knock pre-foreclosures, and then they'll drive for dollars and they'll add those ugly houses to their list. Okay, so there's multiple ways to actually do this, but I found it's most efficient to just drive for dollars, add those ugly houses, come back, skip trace them, throw those into the power dialer, and start cold calling them. But I mean, if you run into a house that looks just like this one or any of the other ones that were on the screen, get out and knock those. It's not gonna hurt you to get out and knock them. Yeah, Zach's been very consistent with driving for dollars. He's in Indiana, so make sure you're squatting up with him. He's a sub-2 student. Josh says, question Bryce about driving for dollars virtually. So because Josh has been doing video, he's been very intrigued with real estate. So every time he asks him a question, he just downloaded the BatchDriven app as well. So he does have a lot of, questions when it comes to the BatchDriven app. So he says, question Bryce about driving for dollars virtually. When you start driving, what's the indicator that you are tracking? Green or red color on the top right of the screen. So let me show you. Okay, so if I wanted to start tracking the routes driving for dollars virtually, it's always going to be green when you get to the first neighborhood. But if you wanted to start tracking it, you would just hit red. So now it's going to start tracking it throughout the neighborhood. Just so when you're done driving for dollars, it's going to pop up and you kind of can plan out your routes. So you can see, you can do your display past driving routes, and it will actually pop those up as well. Okay, you can see that we were just driving for dollars down that little road. So it's going to show up green. When you want it to track, it's going to be red. Okay, so Josh, hopefully that helps. And this is a great way if you wanted to start delegating this task out to virtual assistants. You can kind of know what areas that they were actually virtually driving for dollars. You guys can see it right here, right in the middle of the road. That's where we were driving for dollars. Okay. So it'll track the entire route. And then also there's a KPI tracker in there, so you can keep track of how many properties your virtual assistants or someone from your team is actually adding. But great question, Josh. Awesome. So let me hop on the power dialer now. So I think you guys have a good understanding of how to drive for dollars, what to look for. So let's hop on the power dialer now and see if we can get some people on the phone. Okay, so we are live. So we've got about 2,500 remaining leads for my driving for dollars. So this is kind of my routine, my schedule. We'll go out there, we'll drive for dollars. We'll add, minimum of 50 properties every single day if we're actually driving for dollars. We'll come home and then we'll actually export our driving for dollars list into the power dialer. Okay, and that's kind of how we set up our routine. Some days we switch it up. We go knock on pre-foreclosures. Some days we just knock ugly houses. But that's kind of the routine for us. Okay, so let's hop on, and we are available. So we are hooked up to a 7-line power dial. So it's going to call through 7 phone numbers. When one person answers, the 6 numbers are going to hang up and push it into the back of the queue.
Hello?
Hi, Yvonne.
No.
This isn't Yvonne?
No, it's not Yvonne.
Got it. Okay, so you're not the property owner in Montecito?
Huh?
You're not the property owner in Montecito?
It's in probate right now.
It is?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so what's the process moving forward for that? It's just going through.
What is the what?
What is the process moving forward for that?
Oh, I have no idea.
Got it.
I don't have any idea. I just know it's in whatever they call that.
Probate, yeah.
Probate, yeah.
Okay, so we're a local group of investors and we work a ton with probate leads. Is there any way for me to get the Yvonne's phone number?
That would be a really good trick, because if you could get it, I want to talk to her. She's in heaven.
Oh, I do apologize.
No, I don't have a number for her.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the crappy part about calling probates is some of those are pretty difficult to gauge. So it looks like that homeowner is going through probate, or that was a family member going through probate. So I will call this person at a different time. So I'm just going to set a follow-up for this one. Okay, so we're going to do follow-up, and then we'll end up calling this person back at a better time. Okay, so save and resume, and we're going to move on to the next one. We got about 7 minutes, so let's see if we can get some more people on here. Yeah, James, I've had the same cup of ice for the last 10 hours, so I love it. Yeah, that's hello? Okay, so that one went straight to voicemail. That's the difficult thing about cold calling is you don't know who's on the other line. So usually if no one actually says anything, you can't gauge whether it's a male or female. So I'll usually just say hello. If a male replies, then for instance, the first name on here that pops up is Scott, then I know I'm talking to the right person. But if it was a female, then I would resort to the last name on here. So this one was hung up. We'll go to the next one. Okay, we're about 2,477 remaining leads. We started with about 2,500. Chris, on that one, just because of the situation that she's in, I'll probably just end up sending her a text message just to see if there's anything that I can do to help and to provide value for her. But yeah, that was a tough one. So Kim says, when door knocking, is it typical to find mostly tenants? Yeah, so that's why you want to double check on the BatchDriven app. It'll actually tell you versus a owner occupied versus absentee owner. So that's another tip. Make sure you're actually talking to owner occupied. Because if it's an absentee, you're just going to add that to your list and try to skip trace it and cold call.
Hello?
Hi, is this Miss? Sorry if I butcher your last name. Is it Currywalk? Okay, so she hung up. I had no idea how to pronounce her last name, and the first name was Myron, so I wasn't going to call her Myron because that's obviously a male. So they hung up, so we'll do save.
Hey, Bryce, did you tell everybody about our door knocking journey the other day?
I told them glimpses of it. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to talk about it.
Oh, I see. So I'm going to remove this for a second. We're going to chat for like 3 minutes until Wholesale Hotline. So guys, if you're not following Bryce, you are freaking missing out. And here's why I say this. Bryce is running the BatchDriven app Instagram every single day. And the other day, Jamil and I have talked about this a little bit, but Jamil and I are on a TV show right now, and the TV show asked us to go out and actually drive for dollars and to actually generate leads and start knocking doors. So Bryce and I went out, knocked doors. He actually had to set up addresses where he was like, okay, the TV crew is going to be there, like receiving us with the cameras. The first door that we knock, okay, let me walk you through this, guys. It's super interesting. First door that we knock it 3 times. And the guy doesn't answer. So what do? We leave a sticky note, and then we go around the side and we're like, dude, how is this guy not home? There's a car in the driveway, etc. As we're about to leave, I stand in the shade and I go, let's just kind of hang out for a minute. And the guy walks out of the property and he's like, who are you? What are you doing here? Right? So we have a great conversation. And essentially we find out that the guy bought his house subject to in like 1996. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm not selling. I'm also an investor and I buy creatively and all that kind of stuff. It was an amazing appointment. We had a blast. Bryce did a great job. And we ended up getting a bird dog because he was like, look, I don't invest anymore, but I know everybody in the neighborhood that is selling their properties, everybody that's in distress, people that are moving, etc. And so at the end of the day, you guys are going to learn things from Bryce by following him on the app, following his daily activities that are above and beyond just closing a deal. Sometimes you just have to be creative in the sense of like, okay, Mr. Seller, if you are not going to sell this house to me, then maybe you can help me find some opportunities in the neighborhood. And essentially, we got that guy as a bird dog that now he's going to send us deals, even though we didn't buy his house. So it's not always about closing the deal. Sometimes it's about establishing relationships and planting seeds that will come and, fruit into something at some point. So check it out, BatchDriven app on Instagram. Bryce runs that every single day. If you have questions about door knocking, you have questions about driving for dollars, Bryce is the guy to reach out to on Instagram. And if you guys want to download BatchDriven, it's batchdriven.com/squad up. I believe you get some sort of free something or other.
Yeah,
Bryce,
7-day free trial.
Bryce, it was great seeing you. You now need to leave. Bye. All right, guys. So Bryce is amazing. Everybody's amazing. I am so excited about today's episode. I'm going to give us about a 20-second, 30-second break. We're going to come back, and Brent Daniels, one of my best friends, a hero of mine, is going to introduce us into this episode of Wholesale Hotline. And today in Wholesale Hotline, we are going to be doing a deep dive into what makes Jamil Damji tick. What made him successful? How did he get his first deal? Who he is at his core. And we're going to have a blast today because I can tell you Jamil is full of great stories. And I know him pretty dang well, probably better than most people. There's probably 10 people that know Jamil better than me. And today, I'm going to be the number one person. I'm going to know more about Jamil after today's episode than his own mother. So give us 20 seconds and we will be right back. Thank you, guys.
Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation, conversion of sellers into contracts,
and dispositions. Guys, remember, when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show.
"65 times we have gone on here for 90 minutes for Wholesale Hotline, and everybody needs to know that the only reason that we are all here, all of us, all 200 people that are hopping on here live, the three of us here talking about wholesaling, building this up, really building a network, the 20,000 people in the Facebook group, the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of downloads through all the different platforms. And they all come from one seed, one single seed. And that seed came from my man, Jamil Damji. And Wholesale Hotline was his brainchild. It was something that he wanted to do for this community, not to put us on a platform, not to give us an elevated view of the industry of real estate or to make us look like celebrities, but to genuinely influence and give the right amount of energy and motivation to everybody out there to change their lives through this incredible business called wholesaling real estate, which has completely transformed my life, completely transformed Pace's life, and completely has transformed Jamil's life. And that's what we're here to talk about on Wholesale Hotline. Number 65 today is all about my man, the king of wholesaling. In my opinion, the most, the smartest, the most creative, and the most caring wholesaler in the country. It is Jamil Damji. I'm so excited about this episode because we're going to deep dive. We're going to get into your life. And I don't think that there's two guys better to ask you questions than me and Pace. So are you ready, brother?
So ready. Ready. You guys are amazing. I'm just getting emotional hearing both of you guys talk. I love you both so much. Thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being a part of this. And just genuinely being two of the best guys on the planet. I'm in complete awe of both of you gentlemen. I love you guys.
Love you too, brother.
Okay, so I got 1,000 questions, and I'm gonna start first, and then we'll tag team, because when we did Brent Daniels, I ultimately dominated the first hour of that conversation because I get so excited talking to both of you guys. Jamil, I've got 2 questions for you. Question number 1, if you had to eat the same food for 1 straight week, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you couldn't have anything else, what would that meal be?
Chicken wings.
Chicken wings. I kind of had a feeling he was going to say chicken wings. Everywhere we go, Jamil tries out the chicken wings. Where's your number 1 spot besides that stupid airport place in Wisconsin or whatever it is?
Oh man. You know what? I'd have to say my second favorite wing place in that I've had would be Native Grill here in Arizona. I think they do a great job. So
I did not know that about you, because you're always ordering from other places, and we've hung out for years and years, and I've never seen you say, let's go to Native to order wings.
It's because I know it's good. I know I really like it, but I'm just like,
he's always chasing Pace. He's always chasing.
I'm chasing.
You're chasing the dragon. You're chasing the dragon. So second question I have for you. By the way, guys, if you want, actually this goes into number 2. If somebody's going to buy you a gift right now, what would you choose and why? And and it's perfectly appropriate for you to say the truth, which is, I don't want gifts. I hate gifts. Or maybe I'm wrong there.
No, I'm not really big on receiving gifts. I'll be honest with you. If I want something, I get it, right? And truly, I'm a man that doesn't really want a lot of things. I want the people in my life. I want the people in my life to be happy. I care about that kind of thing, right? And so I think that if I was ever to receive a gift from someone, the most impact that I get from people is hearing how I might have impacted their life, hearing how I could have inspired some action, maybe changed the trajectory of someone's life or someone's week or someone's month, maybe help them make some money, maybe help them understand themselves a little bit deeper. Those are truly the gifts in my life that are meaningful to me, because things are shit, man. Like they don't give you anything, right? When you get stuff, right? Like it just collects and collects and collects. And I'm so simple with my with the things in my life. You know that, Pace, Brent, both of you guys know that very much about me. I'm very, very routine. I wear basically the same clothes every day. I have a stylish shoe I like, and that's pretty much all I wear. I just like to keep stuff really simple, but what's not simple about me is how much I love complicated people.
What do you mean?
Dude, we are so full of like nooks and crannies and interesting parts of our psychology and interesting parts of our spirit and interesting capacities to create as people. And I love just understanding more and more people's experience in their day-to-day life. And I think that's the reason why I'm a voracious reader. Why I don't just read nonfiction books, but I like to read fiction books. I love just new accounts of the experience of what people are going through in life and how they approach things and how they interpret the day-to-day experiences that they have, whether that's an interpretation of, life happening to you or you happening to life. Right.
I could say 100% of this is true because I travel a lot with you, and I've never bought you a gift because I've noticed that like things are you never are like, hey, let's go shopping. I mean, we've been in some of the coolest places, Beverly Hills, Atlanta, some of the coolest places. The most expensive thing I've ever seen you buy was a cock hat at some spot in Atlanta. What's the name of that hat brand?
Gurin Brothers.
So they're like famous hat makers, and you bought like a $30 hat. And I was like, wow, homeboy's splurging right now.
And it's so expensive, I won't even wear it.
Yeah, which is so funny. So we travel around, and the things with Jamil that are important, I've noticed, are words of affirmation, right? People saying things like, your hard work has changed my family's situation. Like that's his most important thing. Second thing I've noticed is that experiences through food are very, very important to you, right?
Yes.
Hey, if we're going to a cool city, let's go try their best restaurant type of thing, or the most unique. It doesn't have to be the best restaurant in terms of price. It has to be the best restaurant in terms of like who has the best culture, the best hangout spot. Like in Houston, we'll like literally fly to Houston just to have like inexpensive Houston Indian food because it's so good, right?
It's true. It's true. Like we literally added a day in Houston so that we could go have a specific dish. I purposely have a layover at a specific airport in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It wasn't Wisconsin. It's Minneapolis, Minnesota. I specifically have a layover at that airport, even if it adds another 5 hours to my trip. There's a restaurant in there where they serve these chicken wings, and I'm telling you, they're so good. Like no one has done it better than this little crappy airport pub.
Brent,
I love it. I love it so much. It's interesting. Yeah, well, you're right, Pace. Very much so. I love experiencing the world through my mouth.
I just want to I want to kind of like let's get in that DeLorean that you guys rented. Let's go back in time. What was life like for you from birth to 10 years old?
Oh, it was terrible.
What does that mean?
Man, so a lot of people don't know, but my first 10 years of life, I have a great family life. My mom and my father, my sister, they're the most amazing, loving people on the planet. But I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, in a time when there was a lot of racial issues. A lot of change, a lot of East Indian families were moving into the area where I was living, and the individuals who were there first, or the Canadians that were there, they weren't happy about us being there, and I literally got beat up daily. I got beat up every single day growing up as a kid, and it was definitely traumatizing. I talked about this not too long ago, but a few people, not many people know this, but like my childhood bully is serving a life sentence right now for torture and murder. Like, that's what I had to grow up around. I grew up in a really low income bracket area, a very, very socially and economically depressed. People weren't educated. They didn't understand this new influx of immigrants that were coming into the country, and they weren't happy about our presence there. And parents would say things about it in front of their children, and then their children would come to school with misconceptions and misideas and misinformation. And it wasn't the kid's fault. The guy who was beating me up every day, it wasn't him. Right? It wasn't him who had that heart. It wasn't him who had that idea. It was coming home. It was coming from his house.
Yep.
It was coming from his parents, right? He was just as abused as I was getting because of it. The abuse was just falling downhill. So the first 10 years of my life were violent.
What was the influx of the migration, I guess? What did something open up? Did something like what caused you to be there, and all these other people coming there, and it being a kind of a strenuous, not kind of be in that situation?
So what had happened is there was a lot of East Indians that were living in Africa through British colonialism. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a history lesson.
Please.
The British conquered much of the globe for centuries, and a part of British colonialism was them controlling huge swaths of land in Africa. Now, a part of that colonialism was, and they also controlled India. So the British were in India, the British were in Africa, and because they controlled both areas, what in fact the British did was they yanked my great grandfather out of India and put him on a ship, and he became an indentured coolie worker, which is basically just a fancy word for brown slave. And we were essentially made to work for the British in Africa, and that's where my family origins went to, right? So both of my parents are born in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and they speak Swahili. So we're Indian Africans. Now, what ended up happening in the 1970s was there was a movement called African nationalism, where the different independent countries of Africa wanted to take control of their land back from the British, and they were nationalizing. They were becoming independent. There was a dictator by the name of Idi Amin at the time who violently retained control from the British. And a part of that violent takeover, it was through, he was the general actually of the army, and it was a military coup. And a part of that takeover was expelling all of the Asians out of Africa because they were an installation of the British government. So our reason for being in Africa was because the British put us there. Now, we didn't ask to be there either, but we were there. And the dictator Idi Amin wanted all the Asians out. So we literally had 72 hours to leave, or we would be executed. And so we were actually refugees. So my parents both came to the West. Canada in specific had opened their doors. In fact, this isn't a time in the 1970s when both the United States and Canada opened their borders to the Asians that were being expelled out of East Africa because it was such a violent genocide of our people. And so we were refugees. We came to the United States and ultimately Canada. But that's where a large influx of us came from and why we were in Canada. We were running away for our lives.
Were you born yet, or were you born in Canada?
I was born just after that, and I was born in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a dual citizen. I am an American and a Canadian because I was born in Los Angeles, and then as a baby, my parents moved us to Canada.
Why'd they move you to Canada?
I think it was just easier for them because there were more people from our community that had gone there as opposed to the United States. So they, we're talking about a time when they didn't understand the language. They didn't understand the diet. They didn't understand that they were like aliens.
Yeah.
Imagine coming into a new country and you don't speak the language and the culture is just way different from what you've grown up in. You feel like an alien, right? And I think that's what my dad and my mom went through. They both felt like aliens, and they felt like if they could be closer to their family in Canada, that we'd have an easier time. And so we had some family members who were living in Canada at the time, and that's what brought us there.
So you moved there. What did your parents do for work? What did they do for an income? What was their profession?
So my mom, she went to like a community college, and she learned how to typing skills. And so she was a data entry operator for a company called Custom Checks of Canada. So her job was inputting all the information that you would see on your check, your name, your address, what check number, what special print you want for your check. That was what her job was. And my father, he and his brothers, they got some investment from other members of the community, and my grandfather included, and they opened up a small car wash in Calgary, and they owned and operated that for many, many, many years.
Was your dad always that entrepreneur? Did he spark that in you? Like, did
Not
you
at
get
all.
that from him? Okay.
My dad, God love him. He's an amazing man, and he's the most gentle, awesome, happiest guy. Actually, that's not true. He's a very gentle
crab.
No, he's my dad is jaded. My dad is jaded. I learned how to be positive from my mom, right? My mom was always the one who told me to keep my head up. My mom was always the one who said, you can do anything. My mom was always the one who said, love on people. My dad always said, people will kill you. People will throw you in a ditch, So was my dad the entrepreneur? Not at all, right? He was in an entrepreneurial situation with his brothers, but I think that his brothers probably spearheaded that decision, and my dad went along for the ride. I think, in all honesty, my dad was more fearful of people and more fearful of just the world than a lot of people I've seen. Still to this day, I'm having to explain to my dad how I choose to see the world in a positive, happy way. And, we can get into debates about our different viewpoints.
And do you
Sure.
feel like you're a better communicator now? You're a better leader now? You're a better just entrepreneur now that you went through? I mean, your first 10 years, people are beating you up because of the way you look or who your family is or where you live or whatever else. So you kind of have to get along in society somehow. Do you think that you started picking up some skills during that, or do you think that developed later in life?
1,000%. I think, I was an overweight kid too, right? So you think about this, right? You're in a new land, you're overweight, you smell a little funny because of the food you're eating, right? Your parents don't understand what it means to kind of assimilate and be a part of the zeitgeist or the way people are behaving, right? So nobody got it, right? My parents just didn't understand, clothes were important, or you got to dress your kid a certain way. Otherwise he's going to get laughed at. He's going to get beat up. They just didn't get it. I think it made me a way better communicator, but there was levels to it. There were levels to it. I think I started off by being, and you know, this is really funny. I've never really talked about this to anybody, but I would make up a lot of shit when I was a kid. I would just invent stuff because I felt so bad about my life. I felt so bad about my situation. There was nothing good happening in my life. I never got a Christmas present. We didn't even celebrate Christmas. Right. And so I invented a lot as a child. And then, as you guys know, if you've probably seen that kid who might be the inventor, it doesn't last very long because you can't keep track of all your BS.
Yeah.
Right. And so I very quickly learned that wasn't an effective way to win friends and influence people. And so I think what I developed was a really strong sense of humor from that point. And I learned that if I could make people laugh, that they'd like me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I started really uncovering that entire aspect of my personality.
Well, and if they like you, they're not as much of a threat, right? You know,
Right.
It's when they don't like you or don't know you, then all of a sudden, you know, you might be, you know, something to pick on or something to amuse or something, you know, threatening about you. But if they're, you know, if you're making them laugh and you're communicating, then all of a sudden it gets a little bit easier and just develop communication style around that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. What about from 10 to 20?
10 to 20, you know,
troublemaker.
Yeah, I think, you know, 10 to 20 was probably more like let's call it like 12 to 20.
All right.
Okay. I stopped taking shit. There was a point. I got harder. There was a point in middle school or junior high, as we called it there, where I was just fed up with it. I was over getting beat up. Mm-hmm. I was done with it. And it didn't matter. I basically felt like if this happens to me one more time, it'll be the last time. And even if it's my last time, it'll be that guy's last time too. Right. And so there was a point where I think I broke. I snapped. And I just stopped taking shit. And I'd say that I probably came off like I had a really big chip on my shoulder at that time. I had a lot to prove.
Probably did. Rightfully so.
I had a lot to prove. My self-confidence and my self-esteem was still developing. I didn't know much about me. I didn't really understand, you know, what I'd been through and why that was important. And you know, the way I was thinking, I was just kind of making it up as I went. But I on the same side of being, you know, learning how to fight and learning how to like protect myself and getting to a point where I surrounded myself with other individuals who could also fight and protect themselves and kind of click up with me. I also realized that I needed to do well in school in order to change my life. And so here I am, a kid who could, you know, get suspended or, you know, multiple times for being, you know, a fighting back.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had straight A's.
Incredible.
And
when do you think it clicked, Jamil? Like I'm gonna just like inject myself into this for just a second. I remember that transition from like being a boy, right? Like being a kid to like kind of growing up, and it kind of hit like the summer of like going into 8th grade, and then all of a sudden these thoughts and ideas started bubbling up from the subconscious, and they were almost like, oh, you can go and be successful at this. And then you start thinking about, what do I want to do with my life? And what are these goal things that my dad and other people are talking about, and that I'm reading about, and people are encouraging me about goals and about like doing something special with my life and all that. When do you think that hit? And during that time, what was it? Did you want to be an actor? Did you want to be, I know that a lot of people are talking about stand-up comedy. Like, was there something that came up that was like, I'm going to be successful at this, and that became a positive focus? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think it was it was in a time when I got really deep into Tupac.
Okay.
Like real deep in it, right? Probably got lost in one of the albums, I'm sure. And I just got inspired. I got inspired by that message, you know, just that message to get out there and take control of your own life, to manifest what you want out of your life from your thoughts, to be able to fight back and not take shit, to understand that you have the right to have a connection with God, no matter where you come from. You know, I was always so mad about my relationship with God because I felt, why the heck do all these other people that were maybe born here or that look different from me, why do they appear to have this closer relationship to God? And why have I just been left alone? Why can't I feel that in my life? But it was what I was being told, right? It was the stuff I was being told about who our source is and what God is and what our relationship truly is between us and our creator. And so I had to relearn that. I had to forget all the BS I thought was real, and I had to go inside to start to learn what I knew was real.
Mm-hmm. And what'd you find?
I found that each and every one of us has within us a spark, a connection to God and to each other. And that every single one of us, including the kid who beat me up and bullied me and ended up torturing and murdering somebody, is a child of God and deserves that love. And we all can find redemption. We can all find a way to get that closer connection to each other and to our source by just going within and seeing how inherently beautiful we are in our flaws.
How do you take that knowledge that everybody has a spark when people do shitty things? You know what I mean? How do you reconnect to that? How do you find that? I mean, I think there's a lot of times where we're just like, are you kidding me? Why would anybody scam me like this or hurt me like this or treat me like this or say this to me? Like, how do you reconnect? You personally, I mean, you don't have to like give like life advice here, but just how do you like reconnect to that and just let it go, I guess, or maybe not. Maybe you connect to that. I don't know.
I think that you learn that broken people break other people, you know, and that's what it is, right? That everybody has been through it. Even the guy that you say, or that I could say was being unfair to me, somebody was unfair and wrong to him. And probably somebody before that and someone before that. And how many layers of subconscious crap are we all living with? And if we wanted to really understand just how hard we all have it, even the ones that are our oppressors, even the ones that are our oppressors, even they have it difficult. Even they live in some BS story. Even they're suffering in some way, right? You learn compassion. You learn to have compassion for those that hurt you.
For sure.
You know, you free yourself of suffering when you can do that.
Well, and this is something that you and I talk about, and it's something that you talk about freely on the show here, is you become what you focus on. You become what you think about all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's a beautiful blessing, and it's also something that's powerful that can go in a negative way, and in the thoughts that really just are we hold on to, and it just depends on what we want out of life. You know what I mean? And so you're going through this from 0 to 20 years old, from birth to 20 years old. You've got this. I mean, I cannot even imagine it. How did you start manifesting it? How did you start putting in the positive things to be able to do something as spectacular as you have in the back 20 years of your life?
Well, I think it started really just taking an inventory of what was going on with me in my life at the time, right? I've been honest about this with the people, even in my mentorship, and you know, I've struggled with you know, drinking too much. I numbed, I self-medicated, you know, I found ways to escape, but I found that didn't help. I found that there was nothing there That was just another pit of despair, right? And so it was when I really sat down and started meditating, honestly. Yep. When I really started to sit down and quiet up my thoughts and go inside and really just pay attention to why I was feeling what I was feeling, why I was thinking the things I was thinking. And then once you start to observe your thoughts and your emotions, and you can start to actually change those. Mm-hmm. Right? You know, negative thoughts lead to negative emotions.
Yep.
And if you wonder why you feel cruddy all day long, you've got to start at the source, and it's because you're thinking cruddy all day long. And if you can just replace those negative thoughts with more empowering thoughts and more empowering perspectives, and giving people the benefit of the doubt, allowing people grace to also screw up, and not resenting them for it, and not hating people for their fuck ups. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to give everybody the chance, the opportunity to really live. And yes, maybe my encounter with somebody isn't the best, that maybe I wasn't my best self in the encounter, and maybe they weren't their best self in the encounter. But you know what? If I can forgive that person for whatever happened and just have compassion for the things that they're going on in their life, then maybe somebody can give me the same grace.
Love it. Pace.
So, Jamil, I know a lot of people in here are trying to get into real estate, right? And understanding your methodology, understanding your mindset, understanding who you are is super important. But why don't we fast forward to when you got your first real estate deal, and then let's start intermingling some of this mindset into the real estate conversation, right? So I know the story. It's one of the greatest stories. And I don't know anybody else that it's ever gotten a deal from this exact method. Now there's a small iteration that everybody gets a deal from, but yours is a little bit special. So I'd love for you to tell the story that I've heard 100 times. I will be grateful to hear it another 1,000 times. It's a great story. How did you get your first wholesale deal? How did you get into real estate? What was that first step? Was it a mentorship? Did you get, educated by a big brother, a cousin, an uncle that was like, here, let me take you by the hands? Because you're the biggest wholesaler on planet Earth. So somebody should have touched you like with the golden Midas touch and said, you will be successful. Here's all the secrets. Or how did you get into real estate?
Well, when I was 12 years old, Michael Jackson called my parents.
That's it.
I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you. So how it happened, how it went down. I'm just trying to make it a little lighter, right? So how it happened was, I was in a completely unrelated industry. In fact, I had been given a referral to go help out this marketing agency. They were a new media company in 2002. And this new media company was in the business of trying to convince other businesses that this thing called the internet was real and great. And everyone was going to go to the internet in the future to find businesses to do business with. And so what I did was I went to go work in this company, and I was the most successful at cold calling. I was getting into the yellow pages, and I was calling every business from A all the way to Z. I was calling every business, and I would call them and say to them, hey, I know that you're advertising in the yellow pages right now, and you're probably getting a tremendous success from it, but you've probably noticed in the last year or two that the phone's not ringing as much. And the reason for that is this thing called the internet. You need a website, and I can help you by selling you such website. 6 pages, an about us, a contact us, a gallery page, and all of this, and it'll cost you $600. And I did really well. I mean, I actually sold quite a few websites. The problem was, every one of those $600 websites I sold actually cost us $700 to make. So I lost $100 every time I made a sale. So it wasn't a great business, okay? But what it did is it put me in proximity to an individual who was in real estate. So my business partner at the time, his father and he were building these duplexes in the inner city of Calgary. And what they would do is they'd find old bungalows that were on 50 by 120 foot lots. They would demolish the bungalow and then they'd build a duplex there. And I overhear them having a conversation where they're talking about making a profit of $160,000. And I'm losing my mind. I'm thinking $160,000. Wow, how do I get involved in this kind of a business? I mean, I don't even understand what money like that looks like or feels like. And like, please let me in. And their response was, no. You have no business in this. You have no money. You have no investment. You have no way to serve us. You have no way to help us, Jamil. This is not for you. This is family time here. We're talking father and son. Go back to losing money in the call center. And I didn't let that. I didn't relent. I had to know more. And in listening to their conversation go even further, they were griping that they needed more building lots, that they could make as much money as they could possibly want to make if they could just find more of these houses that were on 50 by 120 foot lots. And so now I have a need. Now I know they need something. And I leave. I go home and I'm thinking about it. And the next day I walk my dog. And I just so happen to live in a neighborhood where this kind of activity is going on, right? I just so happen to live in this kind of neighborhood where they're demolishing these bungalows on 50 by 120 foot lots, and actually tried to rent a house right on this same street where I lived about 3 months prior, but it was like $200 a month out of my budget. So I was walking for dollars, essentially. I'm walking my dog. I call the for rent sign, and I asked this landlord if they'd be interested in selling instead of renting their property. I knew it had been available for over 3 months, and they were having a hard time renting it. And the lady immediately said, sure, for the right price. And I asked, what is the right price? She said she needed $350,000 for her house. So I go to the office. I run into, his name is Navin. I run into Navin's office and I say, how much will you and your dad pay for a house? One of these houses in Parkdale, which was the neighborhood I lived in. He said $400,000 all day. So now I have a $50,000 problem to solve, because I know I can buy a house for $350,000, and I know that I have a buyer for $400,000, but I have no money to do it. So I do what I know how to do, and I get into the yellow pages and I start calling attorneys. And I get right down to the letter S in attorney. The lawyer's name was David Steed, and he was so fresh out of law school that he didn't even have a secretary yet. He was answering his own phones. And I
want to touch on something, because I've heard this story before and I want to not glaze over this. You got down to the S's, which means you did not start on the S's. You started on the A's. And so most people would have tried to call an attorney in the A, B, C, D's, whatever, and they would have been like, this is too hard, and they would have quit. You got down to the S's.
Yes.
And that's how you got a hold of this attorney.
Yes. I spent the entire day. I wasn't giving up. I knew that real estate conveyed through attorneys, and I needed to ask them what I could do. And David told me exactly what to do. He gave me the double escrow. And, and in Canada, they don't even call it double escrow. They call it a skip transfer. That's the term for it in Canada. So I do what he says. I get 2 contracts, one where I'm the buyer. And he said, what's really important here is your name on the buyer line has to be Jamil Damji and or nominee. If you write that in the contract, you can now nominate your position in the contract, or in America, as we refer it to, assign. And that's what I did. That's what I truly thought that, like, I created this whole situation. I'm like, oh, I'm the first one to ever do this. I invented something.
What year is this?
2002.
2002, almost 20 years ago.
Correct.
Yep.
2002. I go and lock up that contract at 350 grand, and I sell that property to my business partner's dad for 400,000. And about 2 weeks later, I had a cashier's check in 48,000 and change.
How'd you feel?
Oh my God, bro.
Did it break your brain?
I felt like Tupac in All Eyes on Me. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, this is going to change my life.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Yep.
You know what else? I didn't cash that check for so long. I kept that cashier's check folded in my wallet for months. I didn't even realize that checks, I was so broke that I didn't even know that checks went bad after 6 months. I had no idea. If
Why
I
didn't
got
you
a check,
deposit
I would
it?
just cash it. I get a check, I cash it. I get a check, I cash it. I didn't even realize. It took me months, Brent. I just didn't want to spend the money. I was just so attached. I was so attached to this cashier's check and, you know, all of the things that I could do. And I went ham after that, brother. I literally got at that time, I had to go to the newspapers, and I'd get into the classified section of the newspaper. And every day I'd call for rents in the newspaper, and I'd ask them the exact same question I'd ask.
You would just call them up cold?
Cold.
It's a simple business.
Yep.
It's just not easy, right?
And that's how it happened, man. That's essentially how I put it together. And then, you know, one deal went to, you know, 2 deals went to 10 deals. And it went crazy after that. I'd actually gotten to a point where I stopped wholesaling single family houses, and I started only wholesaling apartment buildings. And every time I'd flip an apartment building, I'd make $100,000.
Mm-hmm. Wait, but weren't they like really savvy investors that owned those apartment buildings? I mean, why would they wouldn't sell those at a discount? That's ridiculous.
These were all tired landlords. I would only call for rent signs that were handwritten. If it was a property management company, I just keep driving. But if it was handwritten for rent, my phone number here, that's who I'd call, because I knew that guy was self-managing the building and very likely ready to have a conversation, even if it was to tell me no, thank you.
And just
build. You start scaling, it starts going crazy. You start making crazy money. Like, what are they called in Canada? Like goose shekels, goose turds. What do you guys call them?
Goose turds.
Loonies.
Loogies?
Loonies. That's
so you were making
$1 coin in Canada is called a loonie, and guess what the $2 coin is called?
Double loony.
A toonie.
A toonie. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Canada's so good, dude. It's such a cool place. Like, no shit.
So you are making millions of loonies.
I'm making millions of loonies. Yes.
Millions of loonies. And this is now 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Now, like, what are you wearing? Are you wearing mink coats? Are you driving like Mercedes? Are you balling out super hard? Because this is in your adolescent days, right? This is not adolescent days, but this is like young adult days.
Yeah.
You got money now. I can only imagine you walking into David Steed's law office to pick up your first $48,000 check with like cargo shorts and like, I don't know. What were you wearing at the time?
Tank top, bro.
Jinko jeans and a wife beater.
You know what? I was I was so G. I was wearing like football jerseys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a homeboy comes into a law office, picks up a $48,000 check.
Yeah, and I'm wearing like I'm pretty sure I'm wearing a Saints jersey.
So you're wearing a Saints jersey. You fast forward, you're making a ton of money. I think you end up getting your family involved in the business. Like, drop me off on that day. Like, when did you start getting your family involved?
So what happens is I'm in this spot now where I feel like I want prestige. I want, because my dad, we fast forwarded past the fact that I tried to go to med school. I have a science degree in human physiology. I was on the dean's list, right? I did really well. And so what ends up happening is I end up quitting university to go into this website business and whatnot. So I really disappointed my two, Indian parents who want prestige for for them and for their child, and they want to feel proud of their kid. They want to walk around the community and say, my son's the doctor, my son the doctor, my son, the doctor, and like that's what they really want to tell everybody. And meanwhile, I haven't given them anything to feel proud of me about. Even though I'm making millions of dollars, they still they're like, there's no prestige in what you're doing. And that's dumb. I get it. But I'm following that line. I'm following that line, and I decide I don't want to do these contracts anymore. I don't want to just be moving contracts. I want to be the developer now. Again, I don't even know what wholesaling is. I don't even know it's a word at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's like I'm not calling myself a wholesaler over there. I'm a real estate investor, but I don't understand. There's not even a term in my mind for what I'm doing.
You're the greatest. You're the greatest skip transferer of all time.
Yes. and so I talk my parents into co-signing on 4 construction loans with me. So the next 4 buildings that I get under contract, I take all of that cash that I had amassed, all of it, and I pledged that as down payment. And then I convinced my mom and dad to come in and co-sign for the construction loans on those 4 buildings. And things went really good for the first 2 months.
What year?
2006.
Got it.
Things went really good for a couple of months. And then we started seeing some issues, right? And the credit situation in the United States. And, again, I'm in Canada. And so I don't think that what's happening in the US is going to affect us because we're Canadians. We're energy rich. We've got oil. Nothing can hurt us.
You've got Timmy Hortons.
We got Tim Hortons. And
your A&W root beer is way better than ours.
It is. Yeah, it is. Benny Rescone says he was 1 in 2006. That's funny. Oh my God. I love that, Benny. That's funny. So 1-year-old Benny and me. I'm at this point now, and we get a call from our lender on those 4 buildings, and they say, hey, those construction loans that we've advanced to you on these 4 projects? Well, we actually advanced them to you based off of pre-sales on qualification of buyers that we now need to requalify because our lending standards have changed with this whole credit situation going on in the US. So you need to send all of your buyers back in to get requalified for those loans. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. And you just have them all come back in and requalify. So they do. They go back in and they try to requalify for those loans. Every single one of them was denied on the requalification. Yep. So what does that mean about what happens to my construction loans?
Gone.
They get recalled. Yep. The bank calls the notes.
Pull back.
Yep. And it's like, it's almost, I look back at it and I think, how is that even legal? How is it even legal that they could do that? Because I went to a bank for a construction loan because I don't have the money. I don't got the money to do this. I need a loan. So how are you going to call this note due when you gave it to me based off of your own qualifications? And now you're changing the qualifications, but now we've already advanced how much money in millions of dollars in the purchase and in the construction of these buildings. Now you're recalling these loans. And you're telling me that I have 30 days to pay them all off in full. That's what happened. So I obviously couldn't pay them off. They don't do Subto in Canada. You can't do subject to. So that wasn't going to work. So ultimately, the bank took the buildings back, and then they came very quickly to my house and my parents' house, and they foreclosed on all of us. And Pace had asked, what did I buy? I had bought a few cars, So they were all gone. They got towed out of my driveway very quickly. We went to zero. We went to negative 1.8 million very, very fast. In fact, my judgment for that entire debacle was from my default judgment after they took the cash, after they took the properties, after they sold the properties, my default judgment was 1.8 million. And I paid back every penny of it.
Incredible.
Yep.
You should have seen Pace's eyes when you said you can't do Subto in Canada. He got a spark in his eye. He's like, I'm about to change that. Anyway,
right. I'm like,
incredible. So you were back to zero.
Yeah.
And is that when you moved?
Yeah, that's when I decided I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
I gotta go. And I was just going through it, right? I was, like I'd said, I my sense of humor is developed, and I can find painful situations funny.
Sure.
Right. So I just said to my parents, hey, look, I don't think I can do this real estate stuff right now. I'm too deflated. I feel just completely beat up, but I think I got to go and try this other thing out in LA. I'm going to go become a stand-up comedian. And, my mom and dad are, as much as my dad is, not the most positive guy, but he's a loving father. And my mom is an amazing supporter. And my sister, oh my gosh, she's an amazing supporter too. They all had my back, and they said, get out there and do it. Go make it happen. And so I got on a plane and I went to Hollywood and I started doing open mics.
How'd it go?
I mean, I'm not on a comedy podcast right now, am I?
Not yet. You're still a young
so
man.
Jamil, a couple questions timeline wise.
Yeah.
Charisma and Natalie, where do they get inserted in this picture? Have they already come into the picture with this, or is this coming up?
So there's a little overlap there between Charisma and Natalie, because, Charisma's mom was actually my paralegal at the law office that I was doing all my deals at, right?
Is this David Steed's paralegal or different?
No,
now?
a different law firm now. But Tiffany, the mother of my child, she's an amazing woman. And we just weren't a great fit as a couple, but we're fantastic friends. She's just the most gracious, beautiful girl ever. She's so cool. She's such a fantastic mom to our daughter, and I adore her. I love her very much. But we couldn't hack it as a couple. And actually, I met Natalie very soon after Tiffany and I broke up. And then it just so happened that Tiffany was pregnant. And so there was like not a lot of time between that one relationship ending and the next relationship kind of beginning. But that's how that happened. And then funny enough, another thing that many people don't know about me was I got into a very, very serious motor vehicle accident. And so on August 12th, 2008, I was paralyzed in a car accident. I broke my neck, and I almost lost my life in that accident. In fact, when Natalie, because I disappeared, I'd met Natalie, and her and I were hanging out for a few weeks, nearly a month. I disappeared, and she actually went through the city. Like, we have this thing in Calgary called the City Beat, where it's basically all of the emergency responder calls. And she was reading the tape of the last couple of weeks, because she's like, why did this guy just disappear from my life? Like, he just stopped calling, and what happened? And she read a story of a vehicle that matched the description of the car that I was driving, and the occupant had actually passed away at the scene, because I had flatlined. But I was able to survive that situation. I had a fusion surgery done on my spinal cord. They removed C5 and C6. And so I have metal plates in my neck. So, me in that foot cast and me in that arm cast, and calling myself injury prone, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. but yeah, that all happened, man. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to walk again. It was hard.
So Natalie obviously feels like you guys are disconnected because you left and you just skated town, right? So you come out of essentially a coma, right? And you reach back out to Natalie and you tell her, hey, I've been gone. Like, what was that conversation like?
You know what? It was about 3 weeks after the accident. I was still in the hospital and she thinks I'm dead. And I finally get my phone back because my phone, I didn't have access to it. When you get brought into the hospital in a situation like that, they take all your shit, right? It's all in a bag somewhere. And so I finally got my stuff back, and I was able to call Nat, and I called her up, and I was like, "Hi." She
thinks you're dead.
She thinks I'm dead. She thinks I've passed away. So she comes out to the hospital to see me. She hangs out, dude. Like, Natalie is ride or die, man. She hangs out with me every day.
Wow.
Every day when I'm learning how to rewalk, when I'm like, I'm in a wheelchair, I'm in a cane, I'm still at the hospital. And then finally, once I'm out of the hospital and I'm at home for a little while, that's when I just make the decision to leave Canada and come to the United States. And that's when, Nat and I moved our relationship from living in the same city to long distance. So not only that, Natalie watched me go completely broke. She thinks I've died. I basically passed away, gone completely broke. And then when I'm able to walk again, I ditched her. I left the country. I came to the United States. But her and I's relationship was so strong. Our friendship was so real that that we survived. We survived long distance, and as you guys may or may not know, she's been my wife now for 7 years. We've been together for 12 actually. She's the most amazing woman, and my daughter Charisma is also 12, and my relationship with her mother is amazing, fantastic, and the relationship between Natalie and Tiffany, the mother of my child, is amazing and fantastic. It's just, I'm surrounded by such loving women. I'm so lucky to have them in my life.
Okay, so here we are. You're in LA. I know you and Natalie are long distancing. You're now in the throes of having a baby with a woman that, obviously you still love. I've been able to speak to her. She is amazing. But how did you get back into real estate, right? We got to catch up here, and we got to talk about, how did Keegley get started? How did, Jamil become the superhero he is today? What was that next step? You're in LA. How did real estate call you back?
Well, I'm in LA, and as you guys may know, Los Angeles is an expensive place to live, right? And so what my family and I are doing, my sister is in Canada still. She's still in Canada. I'm in the United States doing comedy. But my sister is making some strides with some property we have there. And now she wants to invest some of those funds in possibly some depressed real estate in the US, because we see that in Phoenix, you can buy a condominium that was at one time worth $350,000 for like $20,000.
Yep.
And it's renting for $850 a month. So I mean, that's almost like a Subto deal, right? Where are you going to find an investment opportunity where you can put down $20,000 and cash flow $850 a month?
Nowhere now, unless you're using creative finance. Right.
It's like, it's nearly impossible return. Right. And so we start looking at Phoenix, because Phoenix, we can go start buying these little cheap condos, and we can rent those condos out, and that rent will actually arbitrage my life in Los Angeles, right? And so I'm using the money that we're making in positive cash flow from properties we're buying in Phoenix to afford my my comedic stint in Los Angeles. But what actually brings me to Phoenix is, back in that time, Brent, as you might remember, short sales were king, right? Yep. So this is 2010 now. And for those of you that weren't able to see this part of the market, how it would work is you would get into, you would write like 50 short sale offers, and a bank, you would write them all over town on a whole bunch of different properties. And the bank would basically approve or deny your short sale offer, right? And a short sale is when you offer a bank to purchase a property at a loss for what they actually are owed on that note, right? So the seller is short selling that property. So you would actually have to write like 50 offers to get one offer accepted from a bank, because they weren't accepting everything. They were only accepting specific special cases. So what had happened is I had written a number of offers, and I was closing what we could afford to close. But this 1 month, 2 properties actually got approved that we couldn't close on because we had already purchased 2 condominiums. And so now we were out of money. But at this time, the bank didn't have any deed restrictions on that approval. And I was allowed to resell that property the same day or do a double escrow. So what I did is what I knew how to do. I went onto Craigslist and I wrote an ad. And I wrote an ad for these 2 short sales that became approved that I could now sell the contract on. And 15 minutes later, man, my phone is ringing, and this gentleman by the name of Tim Wynn, who I'm still friends with, he calls me up and says, I'll take those 2 houses off you. And I make $18,000 just like that. And so here I am sitting there in Los Angeles, making no money as a comic, trying to figure out my path in this world. And I literally write 2 offers on 2 properties in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm able to make $18,000 basically with my eyes closed. Yep. And that was all signs. That was all the signs I needed, because I said, I'm being blessed with an opportunity here, and it would be irresponsible of me to not leave my dream of being a comedian in Los Angeles and go to Phoenix and go do this real estate thing, because obviously there's money here and I have to find a way to pay back my parents for losing their house. I'm engaged now to Natalie at this time. So I'm about to start a family. How am I going to afford to do all this? How am I going to afford to even pay rent? I got to do something. And so on my birthday, it was December 12th, 2012, 12/12/12. I'm in a U-Haul, leaving Los Angeles, barreling down the 10 on my way to Phoenix. And I hit a haboob. You know what a haboob is, right? That, for those of you that don't know what a haboob is a dust storm. It looks like the end of days, right? Google it, HABOOB. Google that word, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I get stuck in this massive haboob on the 10 freeway from LA to Phoenix, and I feel like that's it. God's like punishing me. I'm done. It's over. This is it. I shouldn't have left, but I keep driving. And it was the best thing I'd ever done in my life, man. I felt at the time, I really thought I was leaving behind my dreams to come and find a way to make right all the mistakes I had made with my family and their money. And so, but what ended up happening is my dreams ended up coming true by that little sacrifice that I made.
10 years after doing your first deal.
Correct.
Incredible. Getting it all, losing it all, getting a little bit of light coming in by buying a little bit of properties that were getting cash flow, getting those wholesale deals from short sales. And now you're committed. Now you're into it.
Now I'm into it. Now I'm loving it, man. I'm having a good time. I'm here in Phoenix. I'm wholesaling. I know what the word wholesaling is. I hear that it's like a thing. And wholesalers are cool, and I'm good at it. I'm really good at it, right? Like I was always good at being able to understand value. Like it's just something I inherently get. Yeah. I'm even able to spot value in people, right? Like it's like
before he goes into this is the number one superpower I feel like Jamil has, is that I can go into a room with Jamil and in 30 seconds or less, he can break down a human being and go, this person, this, and this, and we got to watch out for that person. That person's all in it for them. Or, hey, this person has a heart of gold. And 100% of the time, it turns out to be exactly the way Jamil lays it out. It is crazy how he can see it, like in a moment. And he'll call me. We'll like be in a meeting and he'll call me after the meeting and go, hey, just so you know what that guy's really trying to do, right? He's trying to do X, Y, and Z. And I go, how did you pick up on that? And 2 days later, it's like Jamil wrote it in stone 1,000 years ago. And I uncovered this time capsule. And I'm like, how did he have the answers before like even any piece of information was available? It's crazy how you have that thing. Was that just always in you?
I guess I think so. I think so. And I think also when you've searched every dark corner of yourself, then you know the dark corners in others. That's it. But you have to see the dark corners in your own life, in your own spirit. You've got to be willing to do that. You've got to be willing to really just know who you are and what you are. And if there's parts of you that aren't the best, if there's parts of you that are vibing high, if there's parts of you that you would change, you only dislike in people what you don't like in yourself. It's really, really true. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because you'll say, well, no, how can that be? That person picks his nose and eats it. I hate that. I would never pick my nose and eat it. But you pick your nose and eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a terrible example, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, but it's an analogy. I get it.
An analogy. Yeah.
I get it. Yep. So when you're out here, I mean, it's hustle mode from then, right? You touch around early 13, and then what happens?
And then life explodes, man. So things are moving fast now. It's 2013, and I'm picking up steam. I'm going, right? How
are you finding deals?
Real estate agents.
Yeah.
That was my first line of inventory, was real estate agents. I literally called every real estate agent in Phoenix, Arizona. And my pitch was this: I am interested in buying the cruddiest house you have, but on one condition: don't tell anybody who I am.
Yeah.
And the real estate agent would be like, what? Why? Because I want to remain anonymous. Well, why would you want to remain anonymous? Because I'm mysterious. I'm not kidding you. Like I want to remain anonymous. I want to remain anonymous. I would just tell the agents I want to remain anonymous. And guess what happened? I intrigued so many high power real estate agents that they all started doing business with me.
Yep.
And then they would get to these little networking events and they'd be like, I landed this whale of a client. Oh my God. He buys everything I send him. It's incredible. What's his name? I can't tell you.
Can't tell you.
Why?
I was still in that world. I had one leg in, one leg out. I was getting out of traditional real estate, and all I kept hearing about was this secret buyer that buys 30 deals a month, and he's so rich and he's so mysterious. And then I'm there at North & Co. Pace, and Eric Sage goes, "Oh, you're just talking about Jamil. Yeah, he's great. Here's his number." I was like, "What?" That was it?
That was it.
And I was like, "Jamil's his name?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Huh, that's a cool name. All right, I'm going to call him." And then we just, sent you some deals, and then you were working with your team. You had the whole company kind of laid out beforehand. I mean, you guys really had an interesting vision for what Keegley was going to be.
Well, it's funny because at the time, the entire vision of what Keegley came out of a frustration I was having in my own business, right? So as you guys know, I had a different partnership before Josiah and Hunter. And that individual, him and I were just on two different pages when it came to what we were trying to accomplish in our businesses. And he was interested in kind of taking it easy and traveling and being on a yacht. and I was just starting a new family, and I needed to do more deals, and I was really energized to just do more.
Yep.
And so when I was unable to reach him because he was on a yacht, I actually would call Josiah and Hunter to help me sell my deals.
Yep.
And I actually met Josiah and Hunter at a sandwich packing party for homeless people. That's an interesting story in itself. I meet these two young kids at this guy's house. He says, "Hey, you know how you were complaining that our kids are going to become entitled brats because we make money and they don't know what it means to say no?" Yeah. Like, well, why don't you come to my house and we're going to be packing sandwiches. We're going to pack 1,000 sandwiches for homeless people, and then we're going to go out to the park and we're going to give them out. And bring your kid. And I'm like, cool, this sounds amazing. So I'm at this sandwich packing party, and that's where I meet Josiah and Hunter. And Josiah comes up to me and he says, "Hey, are you that guy that does all those deals, that doesn't want anybody to know who he is? You're Jamil, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Because it's secrets out by now, right? People have caught on. And he just asked me, he's like, "How many deals you do this month?" And I was like, "I think about 14. He's like, How is this even possible? And it was all through my networks. It was all through my agents. And so that then became agents and wholesalers. And I even to this day right now, last month we did 62 transactions at Keegley. We did over $1 million in revenue. And every single one of those deals either came from a wholesaler or a real estate agent. Not one of them came from any paid marketing. It's insanity.
Well, it's the process. It's your vision. It's what you saw. I mean, you saw it happening before. You know what I mean? You call a for rent by owner up and have that conversation. It's what's the difference between calling up a real estate agent and having that conversation? You know what I mean? It's this thing changed your life. This thing pulled you out. This thing gave you second chance. This thing, it's incredible. And you did it and you kept doing it. And then not only did you do it, but you did it with a flourish. You know what I mean? Like nobody knew. It was like this mysterious guy that was snatching up all the properties, but you were just essentially dispoing it to everybody else. And it was absolutely incredible to watch. And we've done a lot of business together. I mean, Pace sells you pretty much everything. And so do a lot of people. And it's because you guys communicate so effectively and you get the job done. And I think that's really the important thing, because you could go and I don't want people to think that, you can just go out there and promise the world and promise people that you can buy all these things. If you can't close, if you can't get that deal done, if you can't get it to the finish line, you're over. Your reputation's gone. Correct. You've already burnt the bridge with that agent, and that agent's going to talk to somebody else and talk to somebody else. So I think the real key ingredient there that you had, Jamil, is you made sure those deals got done. And if you didn't, you gave people you gave them a long time and let them know well in advance. And you weren't holding people by, you weren't holding up a transaction that you knew you couldn't do because you were trying to, work it. You would let it go. And I think that's what's incredible. And that was very rare.
Can I touch on something real quick?
Do it.
So a lot of people don't understand that relationships come from the weirdest places, right? Jamil and I travel around. All three of us created Wholesale Hotline for this exact purpose, is because we understand the best people in your lives come from you just being out there and taking action. So here's Jamil. He finds his partners who are epically matched perfectly. You find them packing sandwiches for homeless people, right? So you go out, you take action, you put yourself out there. I met my partner through Steve Trang's podcast by putting myself out there.
Right.
Guys, there's a lot of you in here that are partnering up. I get DMs all the time. I got a message from a gentleman on Friday of last week. He said, "I don't do any marketing. I only work the Wholesale Hotline Facebook group, and I do deals with people in the Wholesale Hotline Facebook group."
Yep.
He turned off all his marketing. So pay attention to that, guys. Jamil met his partners they did $1 million in business this month from going out and packing sandwiches and networking with people and squatting up and saying, how can we go create value with each other? Right.
Yep.
Don't miss out on that. I also think that a good topic in the future would be the ins and outs of Keegley. Like, what's the corporate structure? What employees do you have? What do people do all day long? What's your expansion plan? Where are you guys currently open? You know, I know we had Thomas from, you know, one of your franchise owners in January, and it was one of the most watched episodes still to this day. It's continually getting downloaded. But I think it'd be cool for you to talk about your structure with your partnerships and all that kind of stuff, because that's a whole topic in and of itself. How do you create a dispo model only and do 62 transactions in a stinking month, not including your franchises, by the way? That's just you in your markets that you guys are in, right?
Right.
Pace,
So
please
don't-
no cursing, okay? Stinking, come on.
Oh, yeah.
You're wild.
Sorry
You're wild.
about that. So I do think that would be a really great topic for the future, is to have a full breakdown of what does Keegley look like and where does Keegley want to go in the next couple of years, because there are people that are, you know, AstroFlip students where they get a lot of their education from what you guys are doing inside of Keegley. And I don't think that story's ever been truly told. What is AstroFlipping? What are you teaching people? What are they learning from Keegley? What parts of your business model can somebody take and actually implement in their own individual market? I think that's a whole topic in and of itself. Don't you guys agree?
100%.
Absolutely. But it's no secret. You know, the fact is I teach people how to build relationships.
Yep.
I teach people how to go out and find inventory in the areas where all the inventory hangs out. Right. And that's the key. And I teach people how to do good business. And in that, all of the tips and tricks and different ways that we find these relationships and the ways that we develop these relationships and how we make them strong and make them stickier. And you build businesses off those relationships. And I truly believe this. You know, I have nothing against going seller direct, but again, it's very rare that a seller will sell you more than one house. It's very rare.
It's true.
It's more often than not going seller direct is a one-trick pony, and it's expensive. It's an expensive trick. You know, if you could really figure out how to create relationships with people and learn how to do that at a high level, and those relationships continue to bear fruit day after day, week after week, month after month, that's how you build a sustainable business. That's how you build a business you can one day sell.
I love that. So you guys get linked up. Now, a couple of questions have popped up. How did you meet Brent? How did you meet Pace? I'm going to tell you guys how I met Jamil real quick. Jamil had been doing business with somebody that I was in some, you know, my story last week, which was where I lost that $1 million. Jamil had done business with this gentleman, and I was asking around town, like, hey, does anybody know anybody that's like been involved with this guy? And somebody says, yeah, this guy Jamil. And I'm like, oh, the mysterious buyer. I know of that guy's name. And here's what's funny. The agent who told me about you, Jamil, did not want to give me your phone number. They would not give me your phone number. They said his name's Jamil. That's all you need to know. Okay, so dude, this is what I did.
Josiah wouldn't give me his name, Pace. Josiah,
wow.
His business partner at the time. He's like, yeah, I can't tell you who it is. We were at Hillstone. I was buying him a Hillstone lunch.
Trying to find me.
Yeah.
So this real estate agent's like, his name's Jamil. That's all I can tell you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm in Instagram. I've been on Instagram since Instagram started. I am like so good at Instagram. So I start going through people's posts and I start looking for hashtag Jamil or hashtag this. And I'm scouring. And I find this guy who doesn't even have a profile photo.
It was an owl.
Yeah, it wasn't even like your face. It was something else. And I'm like, I replied back to you. I go, is this the something Jamil? My name is Pace, and I have this guy that I'm dealing with, and I need some advice. And you didn't even know I was a wholesaler also at the time. You didn't know I was a real estate investor. You didn't know anything. You just go, sure, let's go grab lunch. But you know what's funny is it took you 3 days to reply to me because you weren't on social media. Right? And I don't think you really got into social media until I started tagging you every day in my posts.
I didn't get into social media until like hanging out with you for over a year and really watching, and it was, you know, goading from Brent. It was watching you and your success. It was like a year and a half ago, maybe at most, we were standing at Steve Trang's meetup where he had Carlos and Alex and Sal, and we were all in that room, Brent, Pace, myself, and I was telling you guys how I was about to start trying to post on social media and not to laugh at me.
Yeah.
And I was just
100%.
going to figure it out, right? That's where I was, you know. I'm no joke.
Well, I remember it was a big deal to have you on Wholesaling Inc. podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it took some convincing, and we did it in an echoey room, and it was,
I wasn't interested.
Was great,
I was just like, oh gosh, what is a podcast? What's that going to do?
If you guys should see this. It's literally a video like from 2 or 3 years ago, probably 2019, maybe 18 even. And go look at that video of me interviewing Jamil and how much you've really just, it was time for you to just come out of your shell and let the world know about you. And holy cow, from then to now, it's just been bananas. I mean, it was there. The spark was there. The fire was there. That genuine enthusiasm for our business and our industry was there. But now you're just going, man. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
I usually can tell what year it was that Jamil did an interview based on his facial hair. And
facial
like
hair, bro. The first time I met you, Jamil, was at your office. Josiah, I like forced my way into your office to see the operation. And I am certain you had slips on, like some like slippers on, and like the baggiest pants that like covered most of your calves, like the shorts, and a baggy shirt and probably a hat. And you were just like, hey man, what's up? I was like, what is going on here?
What is
did
up?
he just get out of, did he just roll out of bed? Like, what is going on here? You were just total like comfort. And you're like, yeah. And we just hit it off, and we kept running into each other and selling deals and doing deals and texting each other. And it's been a true blessing. Really has.
How did Jamil and Brent meet? Was it really at the Go Giver Mastermind, or when did we all become really
Brent,
good friends?
Before that, Brent forced his way into our office. Literally, he was really trying to. We were doing deals, but we hadn't really met.
Yep.
And he was just trying to get me to talk to him. You know, Brent at the time was beginning his journey. Well, he was on his journey of social media.
Yep.
And was really, really interested in creating some content with me, because like I was doing it so much differently than everybody else that he had talked to.
Yep.
And our numbers were staggering, and he could verify that it was real. You see, I was doing business before I got on social media. I didn't get on social media and then say to people I'm doing business, right? I did business a long time before I ever peeped a squeak out of my mouth about deals.
Yep.
Right. And so Brent was just coming to mine the content. You know, he really wanted that. He really wanted that video. He really wanted to have people hear how I done it.
Well, it's an important voice. You have an important voice and an important process, and it shouldn't be just all, you know, it was going to come out sooner or later. You know what I mean? And so I just, like a sleuth, I wanted to break the story like a good detective.
100%. I love you back, Rhonda. You're amazing.
I mean, we only have 5 minutes left, and I've heard multiple times people are like, we need a second episode. We need a second episode. I think what we do is we do a Keegley episode where we go, how did your partners meet? What's been that journey? Because Keegley's bigger than like, and there's no wholesale business, in my opinion, that I've heard of that's bigger than you guys that has the same exact model, right?
No.
You guys are super unique. I don't think there's another franchise that's even remotely close to what you guys are doing. I love everything you guys are doing. And I think there's an entire episode dedicated to that. So we got 5 minutes. So let's go fire off. Jamil. Couple of things. Number one, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Dishonesty.
How do you know when you're successful?
You know you're successful when you don't give a crap if people think you're successful.
I love it. Come on, Pace, hit him.
Now I'm like thinking, I'm like, dang, man, he was like successful before he ever got on social media, like in the truest sense. You know what I'm saying? So Jamil, we travel around a lot. We talk about this. You're like LA heart and body, and you also have like pieces of you that are Canadian, which is amazing. You're retired. You're done. You've got your, $250 million or $500 million, whatever your exit number is. We've had these great conversations privately. You've got that number. Where is Jamil living? What does that daily activity look like? Are you still investing in real estate? Are you investing in, private companies? Are you done working and you're just hanging out? What are you doing once you hit the number you're looking for?
Honestly, I believe I'm doing the same thing.
Yep.
The number that we know, and I'm going to just say it, the number I want is 250 million. All right. But does that number change my life from what I have right now?
There's no way.
There's no way it does. I've got everything I could possibly want. Everything. I could do anything I wanted. If I wanted to charter a private jet and fly somewhere, no problem. If I wanted to go here and buy that, no problem. If I wanted a house here, no problem. I can do all this stuff already. So does the exit number change my life? No. I feel like as long as I continue to have the energy and the enthusiasm to continue sharing, that's what I'm going to do, man. I appreciate the joy in my life has been the AstroFlipping community. The joy in my life has been being able to make an impact in those folks' lives. When I used to sit down and sit down for those group calls, I didn't realize how energizing they were.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how much I needed them. And I do. I need that community. I need to be able to be a part of people's journey and to be able to just impart the knowledge that I've gained in doing this business for 20 years and longer. I'm just so in love with the opportunity to make an impact in people's lives. So I don't think anything changes, Pace. I probably I could be living in California, maybe not LA. LA's kind of changed a bit. Not for the best, in my opinion, in certain places. I love LA, don't get me wrong, but maybe like Orange County.
What's your favorite two-box song? You and I drove all the way from West Palm Beach up to Orlando last time we had a big meetup. Actually, it wasn't the last time, a couple of meetups ago. And we literally just went from like Tupac song to Tupac song to Tupac song. You showed me 3 or 4 Tupac songs I didn't even know existed. And I consider myself like an 8.9 out of a 10 in terms of Tupac fans. What is your favorite Tupac song?
I think that's a toss-up between Trading War Stories. That's like one of my favorites, and Crazy from the Machiavelli album.
Oh, so good. I listened to Hail Mary 4 times this morning. I don't know why, but I needed to go through and listen to Hail Mary. I was in a certain mood. But I love that.
Awesome.
Astro changed my life. A lot of people, actually I've had a couple of people are like, I've heard of AstroFlipping 100 times. I don't know what it is. I think that's a whole conversation. Truly. Keegley, the origin of Keegley. What did that look like? What were you guys' struggles? How did you guys end up partnering up? Where did Josiah and Hunter come from? And ultimately, where did AstroFlipping come from? And what do you guys, what's your guys' trajectory in that program? Where are you guys, what's the vision ultimately, right? Great question. I like this. What did your parents teach you that you can apply in life today?
Love everyone, man. And I'm still applying that today. My mom would always say to me, be nice to everybody, Jamil. Love people, be nice to people. Even when they weren't being nice to me. She wanted me to love people. She wanted me to be nice to people. She really wanted me to connect with my heart. And my parents taught me that. They 1,000,000% taught me that. They taught me how to love people. Really, truly, unconditionally love people. I don't love people because they can do shit for me. I don't feel like anybody can do anything for me. I'm being honest. Nobody can do anything for me. So when I love someone, it's not out of benefit.
Love it. Alejandro Alvarez says, do you do acquisitions at all? Actually, this is probably my favorite question of the night because I have a special announcement for you you're not aware of. Okay.
Oh,
I'm going to announce it right now on the show. So my first buy appointment, I don't know, maybe it's one of the only probably 3 buy appointments that Jamil's actually been on. Maybe only one. I don't know. You and I went on a buy appointment together probably 4 or 5 years ago. It was a creative finance deal. Do you remember that? The lady's house smelled so much like smoke. There was like tobacco hanging from the popcorn ceiling. Yep. Virginia. And that was our first buy appointment together, right? Because, you know, you and I started working together 5 years ago, something like that. Anyway, Alejandro Alvarez, who is amazing. He's in Texas. He's one of my Subto students, has done multiple creative finance deals. Genius. So if you guys need help in DFW, Alejandro is a great person to reach out to. He says, do you do acquisitions at all? So for the TV show, I just got a text message from the TV show today asking if they think it would be a good idea, or if I think it would be a good idea to take you out door knocking on Thursday for the show.
Fun. Let's go.
And I said, I don't know if Jamil's ever done that. I'll probably have to like do the knocking and the conversations and all that kind of stuff. This is what's so. I know you will. You're so good with people. So Thursday, you and I are going to be filming door knocking out in the field. We're going to drive for dollars. We're going to see houses in distress. We're going to knock doors, and you and I are going to have some conversations with some sellers on some doorsteps in 105-degree weather. It's going to be great.
Sounds amazing.
I'm excited. Do you guys think that it would be a good idea to have a Keegley episode? I don't know if like Josiah or Hunter, or we should just have Jamil on here. What do you think?
I'm all for it, for sure. Let's get one of those on the books at some point.
I love it. I love that. Brent Daniels, why don't you take us home? We're 3 minutes late. Jamil, I tried to talk less on this because you know I love you. I appreciate you tremendously. You were the I had this conversation when I was at the All In event a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you have to have these day ones in your life, these people that no matter what is going on in your life, even when I didn't have a lot to offer you, I had nothing to offer you actually when the first time you and I ever had a salad at AJ's. I didn't have anything to offer you, nothing. It wasn't until later that you realized like, oh, wow, this guy is doing deals and I brought a lot of relationships to you. Yes, we've made a lot of money together, but you spent time with me 2 hours in the middle of your busy day when nobody in the state even know who you were. You were purposely trying to hide from people, and you took your time out to hang out with me and have a salad. And look at where we are now, right?
It's amazing, dude.
I feel like we've only struck the match and we're about to light the fire. I feel like we've begun by lighting that match and things are about to blow up for all of us. In so many different ways, so many different ways. And I appreciate you. I love you. You are the brother I never had. And, I feel like your family's my family, and I couldn't have picked a better best friend. I didn't know my best friend was going to be a Canadian, gangster, but, I appreciate you. I love you. I think this has been tremendously fun. Thank you so much.
I love you back, bro. Meeting you has been one of the most exciting things, the most exciting thing that's happened to me in my life. You literally accelerated my life in so many ways. Brent, you opened so many doors for me. You inspire me. You continue to inspire me. I never realized how fun it was going to be to impact people's lives until I saw you having so much damn fun doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I just got to say this, and I mean this. You two are the best coaches, mentors on planet Earth. Your students love you so much, and why? Why do they love you guys so much? Because you're not only legit, you're not only real, but you care. You care so deeply about your students' success and everything that you guys do. And I'm just looking at it from their points of view and thinking, how lucky am I that I get to call you guys my best friends? You know, so You guys are the most impactful people that I've come into contact with in my life. I'm so grateful and thankful for you. I'm so grateful and thankful to everybody here who watches Wholesale Hotline, even the ones who were mean in the comments. I love all of you. I love every single one of you guys. Turkeys are not turkeys. You guys are all my people. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. And just don't forget, the only thing that I feel I'm here to share with you is that you are so special. You are legitimately special, and God is living in you, and God wants the best for you in your life, and he wants to see everything that you want out of your life and more and more. So don't forget that.
I want to touch on that before I let Brent take over. Please.
Yep.
This is my favorite comment of the day. Lewis says, it's crazy how these relationships, our three relationships together, generated millions of dollars, not necessarily for ourselves, but for so many thousands of people, and changed thousands of lives. It is so interesting when I'm on Facebook or Instagram and I see people that are like, I'm a TTP student and I quit my job today. Same thing with Astro. Like, oh yeah, I joined Astro 4 months ago. I quit my job. Right? Think about the other comment I saw up here. The guy says, I don't remember who it was, but they said that one salad that Jamil and I had changed thousands of people's lives. And I took a screenshot of it, because if I ever invent a time machine, I'm going back to the day where you and I had salad. I'm going to go show that screenshot and go, guys, this was the most important salad that you've ever had. And same thing with Brent. When I met Brent and I actually joined TTP, I'm a TTP alumni. Brent actually spends time with his students. His students have his cell phone number. I go and hang out in Brent's office with my pregnant freaking wife. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been wholesaling for a couple of years, but I need to amplify. And Brent was a game-changing catalyst in my business. And still to this day, he is. Last week, I watched a video of Brent, and I watched both of you guys. So yeah, consume both your guys' content. And I watched a video that Brent did last week, and I said, this guy has leveled up so many times since I've met him, and he has not even begun. I see his vision. I think that you guys see this studio right here, and everybody would kill to have this studio. And you think, oh, it's cool. It's really cool. It's flashy. It's nice, and blah, 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 blah. Guys, the entire thing about Brent that is so absolutely true is that everything he does is to serve people. And it's not an equation or a math equation for him. It is truly built in who he is. He served Jamil to a point where he's like, Jamil, you need to get out of this cage that you're in right now. You need to unleash the beast. The world is waiting for you. We have a lot to thank for TTP for getting this wild Canadian gangster out of his cage. And so, Brent, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. It's been, these last couple of weeks have been a lot of fun for me, deep diving in both of your guys' lives.
Love you too. And it's, I remember walking around at a RIA, at Chris's RIA at the country club. And there's Jamil going around telling everybody, hugging people and just telling people that I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I was like, what is he doing? Like, who gave him permission to just go and grab somebody and tell them that they love that he loves them? And these aren't just random people. It's not something that he that he didn't feel, or that it was just something that was hollow. It was something that was very tangible, and the people were just lighting up and lighting up and lighting up. And I was like, I got to give myself permission to tell people that I love them and show them that. And this is a couple years ago, and I'm telling you, I mean, life gets better when you tell people that you love them and you really mean it, and there's something behind that. And I think that that's the biggest thing that Jamil really brings to our community. And it's not, yes, he's the number one wholesaler, and he's given us, he's given us the whole journey that he's been on, and it's an incredible inspiration. But the love, man, the love. I end every show with it. I end every podcast with it. And I really feel it. And I think you gave me permission, Jamil, to be able to do that. And I'll always remember that. That's one of those things that, like a seed planted in my brain, it's always going to be, it's that love, whatever, blossomed from you almost giving me permission by giving yourself permission. So everything that you've seen, guys, it's genuine. I mean, this is Jamil, and he truly does love the community. He truly loves his students, and he loves Pace, and the relationship that they have is so incredible and dynamic and real. And I think that that's the most important thing, that you love. And after all of that, after African nationalism, after getting kicked out, family getting kicked out, being beat up till you're, forever going hard, building that diamond hard kind of veneer around you, to dying, to literally dying and coming back and giving up on your dreams as a whatever, to come to this point and love everybody. It's a testament to your character. It's a testament to what's going on truly inside your brain and in your heart. And I love you.
I love you.
So there you go.
I love you guys.
So,
I love you both so much. I love everybody. I love you guys all. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Pace. Thank you all for tuning in. You're amazing.
And that's it, guys. That's our show. Watch it back, get inspired. And yeah, I'm excited for you guys to go door knocking on Thursday.
It's going to be great.
You better FaceTime me.
I'm FaceTiming you. We're going to have a blast.
I'm going to find you. I'm going to track you. And all of a sudden I'm going to show up and these camera guys.
Please, I will share my location.
No.
You can follow us around and heckle us. Just heckle us the whole time.
Yes.
Anyway. All right, guys.
So good.
Let's wrap this thing up. Dinner's on the table. All right. So,
all right, everybody. We'll see
Thank
you next week. Sorry, Brent, you go ahead.
No, you got it, brother.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week for Wholesale Hotline. We'll give you guys an update on how many deals Jamil closes out in the streets. If you guys remember, Brent Daniels knocked 10,000 doors when he got started. Jamil Damji got his first deal walking his dog for dollars.
That's right.
Okay. Before driving for dollars was invented, Jamil walked his dog for dollars. So we're going to be giving you guys an update on that next week, and we will have an amazing, amazing show. In the future, we will deep dive into Keegley, their origin, who they are, what they're all about, and also AstroFlipping, a deep dive. So guys, we love you all. Have a great week. We'll see you next week on Wholesale Hotline, 5 p.m. Arizona time.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say that thing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool. I think we should use the one where Jamil doesn't say anything.